Hello, and thank you for joining me today to discuss issues relating to deaf and hard of hearing college student low graduation rate. My name is Letitia Portavon, and I'm a doctoral candidate in the Doctor of Philosophy program at Ashford University. I am sharing a few things you'll find on my resume. I recently celebrated 30 years with my employer working as senior support paralegal in higher education. I have a BS in Business Administration with a minor in International Law, an MA in Strategic Communication, and currently a student in the Gallaudet University peer program. I hold volunteer roles working with deaf and hard of hearing populations. I am the co-founder of the Hearing Loss Association of America, Essex County chapter, vice president and board member of the HLAA New Jersey State Association, and chair for its scholarship committee, and a Hearstrong champion and visionary award recipient. What you won't find is that I have profound hearing loss and can only hear with the help of my hearing aids, closed captions, and reading lips. I'm passionate about how deaf and hard of hearing high school and college students succeed because of my past experiences. In the 1990s, the only accommodations offered in college for hard of hearing students were note takers and audio recordings, leaving me to drop out. Still, 30 years later, many barriers continue to exist for deaf and hard of hearing students in higher education. Issues in accessibility, transitioning skills, curriculum design, professional assessment, level of professional preparedness and readiness, disability support professional qualifications, and self-advocacy and disclosure of disability. As you can see, appropriate accommodations are critical to make sure deaf and hard of hearing students persist and attain higher education in the same way as their hearing peers to succeed in the workplace. What were some of the biggest issues found in literature, and how do they relate to this current corona pandemic crisis? Well, it's impossible to discuss all the barriers today. I'm providing two of the larger issues. Specifically, previous research does not describe how deaf or hard of hearing college seniors experience and understand the role of reasonable accommodations on academic training needed to complete a college degree to transition successfully into the modern workforce. In response to the current coronavirus pandemic, educators have been blessed to teach all students online. Current research investigated institutional practices and accessibility and found that its practices limit accessibility to higher education and employment for students with a disability. Legislation guides higher education institutions and employers to increase access and improve outcomes for deaf and hard of hearing college students. However, post-secondary education prepares students for higher education, and unemployment remains stagnant. This current crisis has forced educators to confront many accessibility issues, such as knowing how to provide live teaching formats using the internet with American Sign Language interpreters, and real-time captioning, transcription of speech produced by a person, not a computer generated, as they had in the classroom. Another important issue that's relevant to all students learning online is the level of professional preparedness and readiness. Current literature addresses the important need for disability support professionals to be well qualified to provide the appropriateness of accommodation to deaf and hard of hearing college seniors. To do so, literature emphasizes that the complexity of deafness and hearing loss requires continuous educational training in which professionals are able to serve deaf and hard of hearing students with appropriate learning tools. These issues are critical since deaf and hard of hearing college students' accessibility needs must be understood to provide effective learning tools, or else their graduate and employment rates will remain stagnant. How can we gain understanding about how deaf and hard of hearing students attain higher education and use those skills to transition in employment? We ask them these three questions. 1. What are deaf or hard of hearing college seniors' experiences of academic training received? 2. What are deaf or hard of hearing college seniors' experiences as to what adjustments, modifications, lectures, aids, assistive devices, and class activities provide full accessibility to higher education? And 3. What are deaf or hard of hearing college seniors' experiences of the academic training received as preparation to transition to employment? It is important to understand that a phenomenology method approach to collect data can describe experiences. To understand how deaf and hard of hearing college seniors perceive their academic training and reasonable accommodations they receive, they must share their lived experiences. This method is appropriate to explore the question, what is this experience like? This proposed phenomenology study may provide understanding and insight to answer the research question of study, which may be interpreted to establish evidence-based practices to educate, prepare, and essentially enhance educational attainment and employment outcomes for deaf and hard of hearing college seniors. Although I have not collected data to complete my research, educators are learning through extenuating circumstances how critical it is to understand educational needs of deaf and hard of hearing college students. Current research has been investigated about the issues deaf and hard of hearing students face, with findings of their needs being unmet. Further, there's no one size fits all to accommodate deaf and hard of hearing college students. Many educators do not understand how to use technology, how to add captions to the recommended software, hire a live captioner, turn on automated captions, provide video conferences with embedded captions, nor download a transcript to share with students to read. During this current pandemic crisis, with every child learning online, there is a central need for educators, legislation professionals, vocational rehabilitation professionals, and disability support professionals to understand what it is like through the experiences of deaf and hard of hearing college students. By doing so, some evidence-based practices may be determined to enhance educational academic skills needed to transition in successful employment. Thank you for joining me today. If you're interested in learning more about this study or sharing your expertise, you can contact me at letitia.porter@my.rockies.edu. Thank you.